The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Gerg Cahiles. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian share markets edged higher in a cautious start on Monday. This is as confusion over U.S. trade policy showed little sign of easing in a week, backed with major economic data and megatech earnings. The Nikkei 225 gained 0.36%. The SX 200 rose 0.52%. The Hang Seng added 0.18%. The Kospi inched up 0.05%. The JKSC climbed 0.68%, and the Nifty advanced 0.99%. In currency markets, the dollar slipped 0.16 against the yen, was flat against the Hong Kong dollar, rose 0.14% against the Australian dollar, fell 0.11% against the Singapore dollar, dropped 0.20% against the Korean won, and gained 0.16% against the Thai baht. Meanwhile, gold rose 0.32%, WTI crude climbed 0.46%, Brent crude added 0.37%, Dubai crude edged up 0.06%, but Bitcoin fell 0.34% and Ethereum slipped 0.43%. The Monetary Board approved $6.29 billion in public sector foreign borrowings in the first quarter, more than double the level approved a year ago. Data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP shows this is up from $2.87 billion in the same period last year. The new borrowings include $3.33 billion in bond issuances, $1.46 billion for 5 project loans, and $1.5 billion for 3 program loans. The BSP says all of these foreign borrowings have medium to long-term maturities. The bond issuances will help cover budget needs, including socio-economic programs. Program loans, meanwhile, will fund economic development and finance initiatives, while project loans will support transportation and infrastructure projects. The Philippine banking system continues to miss its mandated lending targets for micro, small, and medium enterprises or MSMEs as of end of December 2024, sparking concerns over funding access for the country's economic backbone. Data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP shows loans to MSMEs reached 546.22 billion pesos by year-end. That's just 5% of the banking sector's total loan portfolio of 11.25 trillion pesos, well below the 10% requirement under the Magna Carta for MSMEs. Under the law, banks must allocate 8% of their loan book to micro and small businesses and 2% to medium-sized enterprises. MSMEs account for 99% of all businesses in the country and employ a majority of Filipinos. Limited access to credit threatens to stall post-pandemic recovery, slow job creation, and weaken grassroots economic growth. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP clarifies that it is not trying to control how much money enters or leaves the country when it intervenes in the foreign exchange market. This comes as export-driven economies in Southeast Asia, including the Philippines, face fresh uncertainty from U.S. President Donald Trump's new tariffs, adding pressure to global trade and currencies. BSP Governor Remolona Jr. says the central bank only intervenes when peso movements could fuel inflation, not to restrict capital flows. Speaking at the International Monetary Fund meeting in Washington, Remolona explained that the BSP acts when peso fluctuations get too large and risk driving import prices higher. He assured investors that the Philippines remain open to global trade and investment and that capital controls are not on the table. The assurance comes as the country works to stay stable amid global trade shocks, manage inflation, and attract foreign investments ahead of the 2025 midterm elections. CIMB Bank Philippines, one of the country's fastest growing all-digital banks, says it has fully returned funds to all customers who reported unauthorized transactions over the weekend. In a statement, CIMB confirms that the incident of unauthorized fund transfers on the night of April 26 has been resolved. This comes after several customers took to social media to report missing funds, some amounting to as much as $500,000 pesos. The bank temporarily shut down all its online services to conduct a system check. While CIMB says all affected accounts have been fully reimbursed, it has yet to explain what caused the incident that compromised customer savings. CIMB Bank Philippines is a unit of Malaysia-based CIMB Group and has grown popular in the country for its high-interest savings products and mobile-only platform. Hackers targeting banks, hospitals, government agencies, and schools will now be classified as terrorists under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. Speaking at a FinTech Alliance.ph event, Information and Communications Technology Secretary Henry Aguda says this move follows President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s directive to strengthen the country's digital defenses amid rising cyber threats. The reclassification means authorities can arrest suspects without a warrant and detain them for up to 14 days without formal charges. It also allows law enforcers to freeze bank accounts, seize assets, and monitor communication subjects to court approval. Aguda emphasized that law-abiding citizens and businesses have nothing to fear, but warned that cyber attackers who target critical institutions, including financial systems and public services, will be dealt with the same seriousness as physical terrorism. The move reflects the growing importance of cybersecurity and safeguarding the country's economic stability, with banks, healthcare, infrastructure, and education now part of the frontline defense. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. vetoes a bill seeking to amend the charter of the Basis Conversion and Development Authority, or BCDA, citing risks to fiscal stability and government control. In his veto message to Congress, Marcos warns that proposed changes, including a plan to raise BCDA's authorized capital to 100 billion pesos, could strain public finances and undermine the government's one-fund policy, which ensures flexible, unified budget management. He also notes that some government agencies flag provisions that could compromise the state's interest in managing strategic public assets. BCDA plays a critical role in transforming former military bases, including Clark and Bonifacio Global City, into major economic centers. The veto signals the administration's push to balance infrastructure and expansion with fiscal discipline ahead of the 2025 midterm elections and growing investor scrutiny. The country's semiconductor and electronics industry is still the Philippines' top export driver, sees signs of a modest recovery this year. SEIPI, or the Semiconductor and Electronics Industries and the Philippines Foundation Incorporated, says improved investment incentives and lower U.S. tariffs could help boost exports. SEIPI President Danilo Lachica says they initially projected flat growth but are now hoping for a 1 to 2% expansion after 2 straight years of industry contraction. Electronic products remain the Philippines' top export, accounting for more than 53% of total shipments in 2024, making a rebound crucial for the broader economy. If you're still running on gas and diesel, this one's for you. Fuel prices are set to jump again on Tuesday, April 29. Gasoline could go up by as much as 1 peso and 40 centavos per liter, diesel by 1 peso, and kerosene by 70 centavos. The Energy Department says global pressures, including U.S. sanctions on Iran and stronger demand for crude, are driving prices higher. So now's a good time to fill up those pump prices before those pump prices start climbing. We have paused for a few reminders. The biggest business stories from around the country are up next. Keep it here on Business Brief, only on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Welcome back to Business Brief. Amid global headwinds and fresh trade tensions, BDO Unibank posts record profits for 2024. But signs of a slowdown are starting to emerge. Sujin Kim has more.
In the face of intensifying global challenges, from rate volatility, currency swings to the impact of Trump 2.0 tariffs, BDO Unibank delivered a new record high net income of 82 billion pesos in 2024. However, net income growth slowed to 7% in the first quarter of 2025, a sharp deceleration compared to the 12% growth posted for full year 2024. The bank attributed the slowdown to spread compression and lower interest rates, although BDO's loan portfolio remained resilient, growing 12% year-on-year to reach 3.3 trillion pesos as of the first quarter.
We focus on what we can control and let the environment, we'll adjust to the environment as it happens.
BDO also flagged key risks for 2025, including further interest rate cuts and FX volatility, higher commodity prices, and limited fiscal flexibility from the government amid its twin deficits.
The challenge here is actually where to find growth. So the likely effect of the tariff wars and all of the uncertainty is that growth will slow down. But it doesn't mean that the economy will tank or we have a problem. We'll have a slowdown in growth. So banks that are able to find growth will continue to do well. Those that have difficulty finding growth will fall behind.
Despite the cautious outlook, BDO maintains that it is armed with strong capital buffers and provisions to weather any unexpected shocks.
Should banks expect the worst? The answer is yes. So what do we do? If you look at us, we have what we call provisioning for unexpected loss. If you look at our provisions, they're much higher than our competitors because we know that there's a potential unexpected loss out there that we have to plan for.
Even amid global headwinds, BDO continues to expand its footprint in the countryside, betting on the growth potential of underserved communities.
We believe that the growth in the Philippines will come from the underserved sector. A third to 80% of our new branches will be if the network bank model, going into the unserved or underserved areas.
Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The Department of Agriculture directs the National Food Authority or NFA to start moving rice stocks to the Visayas ahead of the pilot rollout of the 20 peso per kilo rice program. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. says it will take several weeks to transport thousands of 50-kilogram bags from NFA warehouses to designated areas in the Visayas. The Commission on Elections clears the rollout, allowing it to proceed despite the upcoming midterm elections. The rice supply comes from the NFA's buffer stocks, which recently hit a record 378,000 metric tons, equivalent to 7.56 million bags. The pilot will cover regions 6, 7, and 8 with plans to sustain the program nationwide until 2028, according to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. This initiative marks a major step towards tamping down food inflation, a key priority for the government amid global commodity volatility, election-driven spending pressures, and renewed pushes for agricultural self-sufficiency. Bilyonaryo Frank Lau, who built a foothold in Chinese restaurants and coffee chains, is expanding into highly competitive lechon manok segment. Lau's newest venture, Chicky Fam, opened 15 stores in Cebu in just 1 week. An aggressive move in a market already dominated by mass market brands like Andox and Chooks to Go. The expansion strategy appears to target family dining and takeout, a segment that remains resilient despite economic headwinds. Jacob Lau, president of the Strong Group and son of Frank Lau, says the decision to launch in Cebu first reflects a broader plan to to scale regionally before going national. Celebrities such as actress Valerie Concepcion and basketball player Kevin Kiambao boosted visibility at the grand opening, but company executives emphasized the long-term success will depend on brand recognition, unit economics, and local market adoption. Laos' entry into the lechon manok space signals growing interest from higher capitalized players in mass food retail, a segment seen as defensive amid uncertain consumer spending. A new business reality show at the University of Santo Tomas, Roars to Riches, gives student entrepreneurs the chance to pitch ideas to seasoned experts. Joan Manalo has more.
In a world where big business ideas often start small, a group of college students is proving that age is no barrier to ambition. At the University of Santo Tomas, a new reality business show is roaring to life, and it is called Roars to Riches. Produced by OHA Studios, a block of third-year AB communication students, Roars to Riches is more than just a class project. It is a 3-episode business show inspired by American TV show Shark Tank, giving aspiring Tomasian entrepreneurs called Cubs the chance to pitch their startup ideas to a panel of seasoned business experts known as the Tigers.
We came to a thinking na what if we create a show that talks about business, especially right now na business world is really like a trend, especially the young entrepreneurs nowadays po no, na sa 21st century na nagbo-boom na yung mga businesses natin.
Unlike typical business competitions, Roars to Riches doesn't just celebrate pitches. It spotlights mentorship, creativity, and collaboration.
We really wanted the students or the competitors to learn from this show and to really learn from seasoned professionals and to learn from them and to get experience from them because they are students.
The show also pushes beyond entertainment. It is a crash course in critical thinking, business instinct, and negotiation, all played out in front of the cameras.
Pag sinabing business-related show, parang it's more of like tanungan lang. It's more of like parang the thoughts of marketing professionals, marketing professors towards the young entrepreneurs, but this show has something to do with mentorship on how they will navigate their business ideas to a real one.
And at its core, Roars to Riches ties into a bigger mission, empowering young people to become catalysts for sustainable innovation, inspired by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 9. With this, the team hopes to further expand the show to inspire more student entrepreneurs in the country.
We can really focus more on inviting more like professionals or international professionals, ganon, and we really can reach a wider audience. Kunwari, more student entrepreneurs sa ibang colleges, ganon. What if we can reach student entrepreneurs from more colleges or possibly more universities?
Running from April 28 to May 13 on UST Tiger TV's Facebook page, Roars to Riches isn't just a show. It is a launchpad for the next generation of business trailblazers. And it all started with a simple idea that young minds, when given a stage, can roar louder and reach higher than ever before. Joan Manalo, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
U.S. President Donald Trump has betrayed Canada. That's a stern accusation of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney as he wrapped up his campaign on a somber note on Sunday, after at least 11 people died when a man drove through a crowd at the Filipino Community Festival in Vancouver. Carney also accuses Trump of rupturing the global economy, as he says America's leadership of the global economy is over. Carney's Liberal Party holds a narrow lead in popular support ahead of final voting after Trump slapped tariffs on Canada and referred to it as 51st U.S. state.
We will fight. We will fight Trump's counter tariffs. In fact, we are already. We're fighting them with our own counter tariffs that cause maximum damage in the United States with minimum impact here in Canada.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent denies discussing President Donald Trump's new tariffs with his Chinese counterpart. even as markets watch for any breakthrough in the U.S.-China trade tensions. Bessent says his conversations with Chinese officials at the International Monetary Fund meetings in Washington focused on financial stability and global risk monitoring, not on trade or tariffs. He also says he does not know whether President Trump has spoken directly with Chinese President Xi Jinping on the issue. The comment comes amid growing confusion, with Trump claiming talks are ongoing while Beijing insists there have been no formal negotiations.
Well, look, I think that there is a path here. So the first path will be, again, a de-escalation, which I think the Chinese are going to have. Then I think there can be an agreement. In principle, these 17 or 18 important trade deals that we're negotiating, the actual papering of the trade deal, a trade deal can take months, but an agreement in principle and the good behavior and staying within the parameter of the deal by our trading partners can keep the tariffs from ratcheting back to the maximum level.
Greece's major agricultural exports to the United States, olives, is bearing the brunt of increased U.S. tariffs. The Pan-Hellenic Association of Table Olives Processors, Packers and Exporters says the tariffs will hurt their exports to the U.S. It estimates that if the 10% of the tariffs are passed to the U.S. consumer, Greek exports will go down by 15%. Greece exports to the U.S. reached 240 million euros, or about 28% of the total Greek exports in 2024.
For us, the producers are going to be hurt, maybe longer term. The exporting companies, of course, they will be hurt short term because they are the ones that are supporting right now. And of course, the trade with the United States is going to be down because the prices, at some stage, they will be passed, the price increases, they will be passed to the U.S. consumers.
Philippine shares closed the first trading day of the week in the negative territory. The PSE index ended lower by 0.3% to close at 62.49, finishing the day as a third worst performer in Asia. The sectoral indices ended mixed, with financials falling the most at nearly 2%, while services have the biggest gain at more than 1%. Decliners narrowly outpace advancers 98 to 94. The total value turnover reached 5.7 billion pesos. Majority of the day's most active stocks ended in the red, with BDO Unibank falling the most at more than 3%. Meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso is currently trading at 56.29, weakening from Friday's close of 56.27. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Gerg Cahiles. Join us again next week or tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. See you then.